Hi everyone, Grant K here for the Flame Premium Learning channel. In this set of videos, we will take a look at the redesigned surfaces in the Action 3D Compositor. We'll be reviewing the bilinear surface, the perspective surface, and the extended bicubic surface in Action. This affects all artists using Flame Premium and Smoke Advanced. You'll notice that I mentioned a new surface called the perspective surface, but not the bicubic surface. All of this will be made clear as you watch through these videos. Firstly, for this version of Flame Premium and Smoke Advanced, the surfaces were redeveloped with a new set of interaction modes. The idea behind this was to dramatically increase the surface's capabilities within the 3D environment of Action. This affects all surfaces with the exception of flat surface for obvious reasons. Surfaces such as the bilinear, perspective, and extended bicubic surfaces are now regarded as vertex-driven surfaces. In other words, the 3D technology with which Action has always displayed 3D surfaces and textured them is now exposed at the creative level. This should not be a totally foreign concept, because the old edit offsets in bilinear surfaces allowed for some manipulation of the texture on the 3D surface. So now all 3D objects have vertices which define their shape and can be manipulated. For example, either using a bilinear or extended bicubic surface, you can click on a vertex and change the surface's shape for a variety of compositing tasks and so forth. On a superficial level, it looks no different from what you might have been used to in previous versions of the software. In fact, the vertices shape manipulation is the same. However, there is now much greater exposure on the relationship between the surface and its texture. We'll dig much deeper into this relationship in a future video. So in the context of Flame Premium and Smoke Advanced, there is new terminology to wrap your head around. I have already talked about vertices, or a single vertex point. Vertices relate to the points that make up the physical surface in the 3D compositing environment. The other term I will be using is UV points and coordinates. If you have a background in 3D applications, then this will make sense to you. For those of you who are not familiar with UV coordinates or points, this refers to the way a texture is wrapped around a 3D model. If you prefer a 2D analogy, the relationship of vertices and UV points could be compared to the source and destination grids in the warper. When the two grids are aligned up, there are no distortions. When the source grid is offset from the destination grid, this results in a warping effect. In other words, when you apply an image to a surface in Action, the image is textured onto the 3D surface using a 2D UV coordinate system. If the vertex points are in a different alignment to the UV points, this causes the texture to warp on the distorted 3D surface. In the long run, we hope that you will find the surfaces and their texture controls easier to understand. This also has enabled the surfaces to have an enhanced feature set. You can move the vertices to change the object's shape. You can move the UV points to adjust the texture on the surface. Or you can link the vertices and UV points and move them simultaneously. Coming back to my previous analogy, this is the same as linking a source and destination grid in the warper and moving them together. Ultimately, this leads to more creative applications within a variety of compositing scenarios. To name a few examples, you could do warping, beauty work, image cleanup, sign or screen replacements, and even set extensions. And just to get you even more excited, everything is now trackable at the vertex and UV point level. So let me just finish off this video by covering what is now available in the surface tools. There is flat. Nothing changes here since the surface remains, well, flat. Next, we have bilinear. The big change is that using the new vertex and UV model, the functionality known as edit offsets still exists, but it has changed. There is a new workflow using this surface, so be sure to check out the upcoming video on the bilinear surface. Next in the list is the perspective surface. This new 4-point surface creates correct perspective distortions when manipulated in the scene. This is different compared to a bilinear surface. Now, just a quick side note. Please don't confuse the perspective surface with the perspective grid tool. The perspective surface manipulates perspective within the image plane of the actual surface, whereas the perspective grid tool computes a 3D axis rotation when you adjust the 4 points. The perspective surface also allows for perspective tracking, which is exclusive to this surface. And finally, we have the extended bicubic surface, which also benefits from the redesigned Vertex and UV point model. So why is the bicubic surface missing? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Starting off with the extended bicubic surface, it looks and works just like the bicubic surface. You can subdivide the surface for finer vertex refinement, but you can now also merge the subdivisions and go all the way back to the original surface. This was not possible in previous versions. Another new benefit is the surface attempts to preserve the vertices animation between subdividing and merging the surface. So for example, I'll subdivide the surface once and animate this vertex. As long as this vertex is not deleted between merging and subdividing, the animation will be retained on the surface. It is also worth pointing out that further subdividing automatically interpolates the animation onto any new vertices to retain the original animation. This is only one of many things you can now achieve with the redesigned action surfaces. In the upcoming videos, we will go through each vertex surface in detail and examine some of the available workflows. Comments, feedback and suggestions are always welcome and appreciated. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the Flame Premium Learning channel for future videos.